you are, of course. And welcome to this month's webinar. I've got a lot on my mind to share with you, and wish I had you all in front of me in person and I could talk to you for a few hours. It's interesting to look back through the years of our business experience since we started, our 37th year this last month. And through that screen, look at what's going on in our company today, look what's going on in the lives of our leaders. It's interesting also to reflect upon the fact that, when you're 37 years into something, that's really two generations have come up. We have our 20-somethings in the business, we have our 30-somethings, our 40-somethings, our 50-somethings. And interesting those, and they have some aspects about each one, and how they approach life nowadays, how they approach business. And I don't mean just technology, but I mean, frankly, values and some work ethic. This isn't one of those stories where an older guy reflects upon the failings of younger generations somehow. I do not mean that, because I like a lot of the strengths that I see in all levels of the business, and I'm excited about it. At the same time, if I don't have a lot of strengths, but one of the strengths I do have is my capacity to stay fundamentally sound, to stay on the basics over and over again. I've never looked to the business or the running of the business to entertain me. And I want to try and explain that before we get into the meat of this. Cindy and I understood when we started our business, our company, like you all have started. We understood that we had things we wanted to make happen in our lives. Most of which was built around our desire to have more control of our life, not to have people who didn't care about us, that could constantly make decisions that would determine, how much we made and how fast we made it, that determined what kind of time we could spend with each other, that determined what kind of time we could spend with our children, that impacted so many areas of our life away from business or away from career. And we wanted to be in the driver's seat for the most part when it came to those kinds of decisions. And we were really willing to work very, very hard over an extended period of time to put ourselves in that position. We denied ourselves of a lot of things while we were building financial independence. We were in the business and had been 7 figures, I think 16, 17, 18 years, at least. Let's see. We just finished our 36. 11 years from now would put it 25. We bought our beach house when we'd been in the business 25 years and have been 7 figures for 20, 21. We controlled that. We didn't ever go overboard on cars or our imaging. We didn't overbuy our homes. I remember we bought our first home, and then over the next 2 years, we improved some things on it. But we didn't go borrow a bunch of money to do it. We did it cash. After we met our savings goals that we had determined, we then had some extra, and we used that to do some landscaping, to do some stuff to the house to make it look a little better over time. We live in a world of instant imaging now. I used a little bit of humor, but I had a serious point when I said at the convention, I thought deep inside most of us understood taking pictures of ourselves and then posting it for other people to look at is kind of silly. I think the word I use is stupid, but it's probably more appropriate when it's silly. It's funny how far we've gone down that path. And I'm here to state, before we start talking about building a team, building an explosion team, why you want to do it, running a base shop, I want to emphasize to you that if you don't get your head together about how you want to live and about what it takes to really win, most of us, we're living a culture today from our federal government on down. I'm speaking U.S. now, but Canada is much the same, where we will borrow money. We'll take the money we are making, we'll use that as leverage to borrow more, and then we'll spend both of them to live a lifestyle that's out ahead of our ability to support. I watch people now running all over the world, taking trips that for the most part I know they can't really afford. Some of the most expensive trips I've ever taken are free trips. And what I mean by that is somebody helps me with the travel expenses to get to and from, but then we spend so much on everything else in between, and that can get expensive. And I just know that for most of you, that kind of living, that kind of pretend lifestyle, and I say pretend because you're not in a position if things take a downturn in your business, or some people quit, or you get a little sick for a little stretch, or whatever it might be, you're really not in a position to be strong during that stretch, economically, financially. You don't have enough saved. Your expenses are too high. And these things concern me. They always have. Cindy and I, on a regular basis, will look at our lives, our economics. We monitor, ourselves financially on a daily basis, really. But philosophically, we really look, are we starting to spend a little bit too much? What's the percentage of our saving versus what our income was? Of course, our income's high, but we've kept our expenses low. I think we used 7% of our gross income for our business expenses last year overall, and that's still a lot of money for what we made. But at the same time, and most of the chunks of that were, of course, money we put back into the teams in events, and running things we called CEO Summits and CEO, that wasn't what we called it, CEO Challenge, and then our Base Shop Builders Club Summits and other things like that. And because you got to invest in your team if you want it to keep moving. Now, having said that, I hope I'm not wearing you out. If I am, I'm willing to, but it is not my desire. For you to understand that all of what I'm going to show you will in large part be wasted if you don't get your head around the very same principles you're trying to teach in the marketplace. And staying under control, saying no to yourself, holding off on things you want, especially as you watch a lot of other people be foolish around you or even above you in the business, and they reach too far too soon, and it hurts, and so I want you to keep in mind that we really have a job to do here, and I think when you have a chance to win, which you really do have a chance to do here, you really do. When you have a chance to win, and if you really apply yourself, win big, earn incomes you never thought were possible, or maybe you laid in bed at night and dreamed somehow something awesome would happen, or you read about somebody and what they earned, this kind of stuff that was happening to me, and you read an article in the paper, or someone got a promotion at a company, or they started earning this, you thought, man, you just seemed, you really had no idea how people reached to certain things, and how they achieved certain things. And it's before maybe it certainly is before I understood entrepreneurship and owning a company and driving it and and growing this way. Yeah, I remember during our courtship, Cindy and I took a drive down a stretch of road called the 17-mile drive. It's in an area called Pebble Beach, and areas around it, Pebble Beach and Monterey, here in Northern California, and super exclusive. And we drive by these amazing houses and wonder, what do these people do for a living? How do they do this? Are they just lucky? What, did they inherit? And I found out and know a lot of these people now, and they didn't inherit. They earned it. They built businesses, built companies, controlled themselves, and built it up and busted it for a long time to really get in that position. And you're going to have to do the same thing. And so I urge you to look at what we're going to go over now in those terms. Now, I mentioned last month that I'd have Eric Olson with me, and I apologize, you're really looking forward to that. I was, but we just never got it together, he and I, to put ourselves in the same place to work on this. And then he realized he had it scheduled to be out of the daggone country with some of his leaders, an event. I think he's in St. Martin or something like that. Anyway, but so it was a conflict too. Of course, I committed him before I talked to him. That's always good. I have better luck than that than I do with my wife, though. Anyhow, that's always a mistake. Let's go ahead and get into creating an explosion on your team. And at the same time, I'm going to take the word explosion and redefine it for you. To a lot of you, the word explosion would mean you have a really big month or two, and you take a big jump on the leaders bulletin. Yeah, but the problem with that kind of explosion is you kind of just exhaust yourself and your team, I guess, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. And then, so let's take 1 month you do good, 2 months you do good, and then you hit whatever, you hit your promotion, or you hit an income amount, or whatever it was you were reaching for. And then the next month after that, month 3, month 4, month 5, are well below the average you had before you started driving for your explosion. And so basically you give it all back. It's kind of like if you're playing baseball, you score a bunch of runs early, and you start coasting, and then the team you're playing starts scoring and scoring, and by the time you get to the 7th and 8th inning, they've tied and then gone ahead, and you lose the game anyway. That explosion didn't do you much good. The kind of explosion I just described, where you have a couple of good months and then you fall way back, and worse yet, your quality of business suffers. Those kind of things. I see people kind of push really hard to go on a trip to qualify for things, and then they're Hawaii, or we have a super trip coming up next year. Fortunately, that's done pretty much over a year, so you don't have a chance to push for it in a negative way that allows you to get real bad quality of business. And then you give it back through chargebacks. You give it back through lower production in the months following, and your team not being as organized, not as focused. I found that I have found in our lives, and watching the lives of the truly successful people I've watched in the business over now, in our 4th decade, the people that do it and do it right and do it long term, build it on the base of their core values. They really do want to help people. They really do want to make a difference with their lives. They really do want to put their families in a much stronger situation. It isn't about a little flurry and a promotion, a little flurry and some recognition, at an event, at a school or a convention. Is that the people that win and win consistently have these deep, abiding motivations, dreams that really matter to them. And sure, they want to travel some, but I more often didn't want to go on trips than I did because I wanted to keep working my business. My dreams are coming true not only in what was happening for Cindy and I and our family. Our dreams are coming true in what I was seeing happen in the lives of our people. That doesn't mean you took a trip you couldn't afford. That meant you were building a business, and you were gaining your confidence. Your identity was changing. Your life was changing. And you were learning skills, and you were gaining discipline, and you were increasing in your understanding. Even your wisdom was increasing. You were better at working with people. You were better at lifting them and building them. And I'd watch you take those skills back into your marriages and back into your children's lives and later grandchildren's lives, and watch those blessings ripple out through the generations. That it was a real character-based thing. That's probably my number one concern right now, is that too many people will be coming into this business, too many people in this company right now that don't have that perspective. Your thinking is so shallow or short-term in your approach. Now, if this isn't you, please don't feel indicted by this. But if it is, I challenge you to look deeper inside yourself. You've got more in you than that, than just wanting some bling, than just wanting people to envy your car, right? Or a little bit nicer house. Please want something more substantial than that, for more substantial reasons. Then you'll create a business that grows, that have explosive ability without the downside, where you do orchestrate some contests, some competitions. The team does surge, nothing wrong with that, but your quality of business doesn't suffer. You have a recruiting competition, and your people are recruiting the right quality of people. They aren't cheating. They aren't shortcutting, because they're doing it right, because the leadership, starting with you, does it right, isn't thinking short term, just doesn't want recognition for recognition's sake. You want recognition because you're really doing it. And the best kind of recognition is the one you give yourself for the good decisions that you're making. Again, for how much you're helping other people improve their lives. That's the feeling of recognition that you want. Right? Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting people to look up to you, want to hang on your every word. I mean, these things have happened to a lot of us. I know those feelings, and I'm always grateful for it, and I'm humbled by it. But I remember when it used to make me more prideful, and then it became counterproductive. And, that doesn't work. My relationship suffered. My business suffered because of that. So, all right, now that I have sermonized for about 18, 19 minutes here, we'll get into this, and we'll talk about making it happen. And I hope I've redefined a little bit in your thoughts what I mean by explosion. Real businesses, when they're studied, say, boy, this business really exploded over this 5, 8, and 10 years. It's not a month. It's not a little surge for a couple of months. It's about a drive to do it right, to building the foundation. I might liken it into putting up a high-rise. And let's say you're in a part of the world, they've got to dig real deep. If you went to the Transamerica building in San Francisco, or you go to the Sears Tower in Chicago, whatever it might be, and they dug it real deep. Let's take Sears Tower, dug it real deep down to what is called bedrock. All right? All the soft stuff has been taken away. You're now on bedrock. And then you start pouring the foundation. You maybe drill into that further, and you start putting in steel. and then concrete to wrap it. And you build this strong foundation. When you're watching a building like that go, it seems like they dig forever and like nothing's happening because they're doing all the work in the foundation. And then one day you drive by, maybe a couple months have gone by, and you can't believe how fast it's going up because they spent all that work in the foundation and it didn't always show in some kind of spectacular way. But if you're doing it right and you're building the foundation, then all of a sudden your business starts going up. And the gains you get to keep. You don't move forward and then move way back. You move forward, hold your ground, move forward again, hold your ground, move forward again, and hold your ground. And so let's talk about this and try and make some sense of it. Principle number one, you do it first. There's no part of the business you can get away with not becoming proficient at. I don't mean great. I don't mean talk like Ed Milet, work like Monty Home, anyway, I go on and on naming names. I'm talking about you do it first. You may not be great at giving a BPM, but you got to learn to give one that's decent. You don't need to be great giving a field presentation, but you got to give a decent one, a good one, a solid one, right? You don't have to be the world's best recruiter, but you got to be a solid recruiter. You got to understand the principles of connecting with people and selling them on a better life. All of these things you've got to establish. And so the reality is a true leader will always set the standard for their people by doing it first. There's nothing else you can really substitute for this. If you're going to rail on your people about how they need to recruit, wow, you better be recruiting yourself. You better have something you can point to. That has to happen. If you're going to talk about that they need to be doing more in the field, then you better be a dynamic field trainer. Be out there making it happen. That's the way it is. You see, the greatest thing you can ever do for your people is to prove that they can win because you're winning, right? That the price that they're having to pay is worth it because the rewards are so great and your life proves it. Now, that doesn't mean, again, like I started out, you just blow it, and on over-imaging yourself. I told this story so many times, but people probably throw up today. But when I wasn't buying cars and we were still renting and I never did buy really, really nice clothes. We were always clean and neat. Same about our offices. But we never really ever wanted to go over the top in offices because I wasn't trying to make my landlord rich, right? We were trying to become wealthy, and we wanted to set the right example of not overextending to our team. Goodness knows enough of them did it even with our good example. And so, but the rewards of the peace of mind, of the strength that brings into your life. So I just put up how much we were saving. I just did a bar chart where I constantly updated as we sent more money in to our investments and into our policies and stuff, and showed how much we were putting away each month. And so while I wasn't going to show off with a bunch of material things, they felt my strength. They felt our peace of mind. They felt our confidence. They could feel how secure we were. That's what makes people respond. Not this shallow crap that drives me crazy with materialism and big talk. Well, you can tell how I feel about that. You don't hear me talk like this very often. Right? But this stuff is a big deal. And I worry about you. You say, how do you worry about me, Rich? You don't even know me. You might be listening, and this is your first webinar. You may think I get this fired up all the time. I get pretty fired up. But every once in a while, we have to have a little bit of course correction in our thinking. And so there is no way any of us can get where we want to go if we don't show the way by doing it first. I understand it's a struggle. I understand that it's frustrating, right? But the great stuff doesn't come easy. And I want you to have an unbelievable life 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. I want you to have a life that changed your generation, the generations of your family for the next 100 years. And that can happen here. I know because it's happened to us. And so the deal is, you're the hardest worker. And you know what hard work does? It overcomes mistakes. It overcomes lack of talent. I mean, there's so many things that hard work overcomes, but you can get through it with hard work. You know, and I know, because that's the way I did it. I made mistakes, right? There's a bunch of stuff I wished I was better at, great at, that I wasn't. And but that hard work that Cindy and I put in changed everything. So here's the deal. When you do it first, right, when you do first what you want your people to do, right, you've got to do it. So anyway, you understand the point I'm making. You've got to do first what you want your people to do. If you recruit, your people are going to recruit. All right, if you make money, you're going to have people that make money. All right, if you're positive, your people are going to start being positive. That's the stuff. If you keep yourself under control financially, then your people have a chance. But understand, those influences are all around you. Every time you turn on TV, you know, worse yet, if you watch some of these stupid reality shows, then it's just crazy what you see out there, what you read, what you hear. You know, and step back from that nonsense and build a life that's going to change your family and it'll make you proud of yourself. All right. I feel like I've already taught a pretty good webinar. You may disagree, but there it is. Let's keep going. Let's talk about base shop power. When it comes to you doing first, I'm talking about you building a team. From the moment you recruited your first person, you have a base shop. That means, by definition, you have a team you're starting to lead. That first recruit is looking to you for an example. What are you doing? How excited are you? How much do you believe? You know, how are you using your time? You know, are you thinking about shortcuts? They'll start thinking about shortcuts. You think shallow, they'll think shallow. Right? So, let me sell you on why you want to get another recruit after that, and another one, and then help them get some, then you get a few more, and then help them get some, you get a few more, and you help them get some. Right? Because here's what the base shop's going to do for you. It is the source of power in your business, of income in your business. It'll give you the prestige in our company that a lot of you want. You'll be recognized for it. And it will produce leadership, starting first in you as you learn to lead by leading and studying other people who are already better at it than you are, like I did, right? So you'll get power in your business and you'll feel it with a strong base shop. You'll drive your own income. You'll have prestige in the business. When you run a big base shop, everybody wants to listen to what you have to say, right? We'll stand you up, start to make a hero out of you, right? But don't get too hooked up on that. Think about the leadership that you're developing in your team. The base shop is where that happens in abundance. I want you to note something, that we put about 70% of our compensation in that area of the business, in your base shop. It is your leadership factory. It is your key to the big time. And one of the big bottom lines is there's no other area that is as critical to your long-range success as what you do in the base. Hey, look, I want you to have 21st generation SMDs that are killing it. I want you to have 30. I want you to have 50. Right? Hey, let's just start with 5 and 10 good ones. But the reality is, that's going to take forever or never if you don't build a base shop. And so you've got to work on your skills. You've got to work on your focus. You've got to work on your understanding. And if you feel like you're lacking in some of those areas, then you've got to connect with leadership, right, who can help you focus, who can help you get that, gain that understanding, so that you can be a strong base shop leader. Yeah? Well, let's sell it to you some more. Why build a strong base? I like that rocket going up. That's a good image right there. Why? You must prove that you can win in this system before your people are really going to believe in you and follow you. As our base shop gained momentum, size, structure, moved up on the leaders bulletin, and our people looking at that stuff and say, this guy's doing it, right? Cindy and Rich know their stuff, right? They care about us, they work hard, but they know their stuff. Now people start believing in the system, they start believing in the company, they'll start believing in you as a leader, and they'll follow you because of that. Now imagine trying to get them to follow you without that, okay? So that's part of what you're going to fight for. That's part of why you build a strong base shop. Lots of good things happen when you do. Another bottom line, people won't bet their business life on a dud. So you may start off like a dud. I did, right? I mean, there are a bunch of duddish things that I did, but I didn't stay a dud. When I screwed up, I figured out by communicating and getting some mentorship and looking at some leadership examples were pretty dang good that were around me and in the company, and I said, okay, what's the difference between how I did that and how the people who are winning did it? And then I adjusted, right? And I didn't wait around 6 months or a year before I did. I was willing to take coaching, willing to make adjustments because I wanted to win, and I felt the burden of responsibility to my teammates to get it right, right? I didn't try and live their lives for them. I didn't try and rehabilitate every person, but I knew I had to set that example, and I had to know my stuff. That was important to me. You see, the only way to compete on a leader's bulletin and in the income rankings is to build a big base shop. Everybody that you look at that's earning the big income here, or solid incomes, or intermediately good incomes, their path to that has been overwhelmingly a base. Now, I think our products are strong enough that you're a super producer, you can make a lot of money here, no doubt about it. It's a powerful industry that way. I love the fact that you can combine that, though, with building a team and getting in the override business, because I never wanted to wake up every day knowing that if I didn't run like a scared rabbit, I wasn't going to make any money. I didn't just want it to be on my shoulders on how much I sold that day. I wanted it to be a team effort, and I wanted to be in leadership, and part of the reward of that is you're going to be paid overrides, and so that your income, it just isn't dependent on you. That's the whole idea of building companies. Talk to any entrepreneur. You talk to the guys who founded Google up the road here. Can't talk to Jobs because he's gone, but you could talk to, there is a couple of those guys that were founded around, and they'd say the same thing. And so keep that in mind. These are some of the other whys for doing it. Now, let's focus a little bit more on the source of income side that I talked about, that so much of our compensation is built into the base. So you just don't want to get a few people and hope they're going to take you to the big time while you wait around for them to become giants of the industry, which they probably won't, even if they have the ability, simply because of the lousy example you'd be setting. And so the base shop is your source of income, and frankly, on the very beginning of it, your field training in that base shop, right? Your production out teaching people, being out there 5 nights a week, sometime on Saturday. That's how we did it. Of course, we included meetings that we were, our BPMs. But that base and your activity in it drives your income, right? And it will until you build a strong SMD team, a strong super base and super team. And super base meaning, of course, all your first generation SMDs that you promoted directly from your base shop, they report to you still. And so you've got to understand this is where the action is, right? You should never count on overrides until you're consistently cash flowing at least $25,000 a month from an override structure. Even then, I'd encourage you to keep driving it so that your overrides will increase. So you can take it to $50,000 a month and $75,000 and $100,000. I mean, like we have a bunch of leaders that have done, right? But you certainly can't count on it before then. So you've got to keep that base shop cooking for an extended period of time. You know, it's interesting. It takes 2 to 2.5 sales out of first generation to equal 1 sale from an associate that reports to you in your base. It takes 5 sales from a first generation to equal 1 personal sale. So you can see, especially in the beginning, how important it is to have direct recruiting and field train those people and get them out producing, and at the same time to take this activity, field training activity, and personal activity, and create business from that. That's what gets your bills paid. That's what keeps you in the business. That's also what builds your confidence. And it's also what sets the example. Did I mention setting the example and how important that is? You cannot rely on income from your SMDs until you have 7 to 10 strong firsts, which probably mean you promoted 20 or 25. You know, and a strong first will identify in a little bit more. Now, here's some of the other benefits of staying in the field, right, of being out in front of your team. And anyway, let's go ahead. You won't lose touch. That's one thing. You're going to be with your people every day. You know, you'll know firsthand the issues and challenges they face. You'll keep a great feel for the marketplace. Now, obviously, in my life today, after 36 years in the business, I'm not having to run a base shop because we got a giant company that I have the privilege and the blessing to override. Yet at the same time, I still go out in the field, you know, on a semi-regular basis so that I get in touch with it. I'm sitting here with my son-in-law, and we have laughed about this and on webinars before, you know, where we built up the company, and I had kind of lost touch, and I went out, and so my son-in-law joined the business, so who else is going to field train him but than me, and we go out in appointments. We're both laughing here. And it's how I found out we had a lousy needs analysis at that point in the company, because neither one of us could even read it. Well, he wasn't supposed to be able to, but I couldn't figure it out, so I had to put it underneath some other paperwork and kind of work out something with a hand calculator at that moment about coverage. This particular person was buying a large term insurance policy. And then he got out the paperwork, and I go, what's that? He says, that's the app. And it was about 8 pages longer than the term app I used to fill out. Anyway, we got the sale, and we got referrals, and we were outside on the sidewalk, and he said to me in kind of a quiet voice, I had kind of a higher expectation of you than that. I was crap. I mean, seriously, I was a mess. Anyway, and I had to buckle down and get after it and get sharp again. Well, if it can happen to me with my level of experience and expertise and understanding, and I relied on all that expertise and understanding and ability to communicate to get that sale that day. But the reality was I wasn't sharp because I'd lost touch. You step away from the business, and at that level, that's going to happen, right? And there's nothing like being in a base shop, getting out in the field, right, that gives you what? The understanding of the issues, challenges. You forget some of that stuff. You really do. You want to keep that feel for the marketplace. You know, if you're going to keep your skills sharp, you'll maintain your confidence. And my confidence did grow. And I made sure that I earned my son-in-law's respect in the field. And so he could expect something from me as a leader that way, right? And you will then teach with much greater conviction and influence. Much greater conviction and influence. Because you say, I was out there last night, this happened. Last week we had this kind of case and this kind of situation, this kind of circumstance. Up to and including the ones that don't buy, and dealing with it, helping the trainee deal with that frustration, right? So running a base drives your income, gives you power, right? All kinds of good things happen for you in leadership. People want to believe in you more, follow you more, and you won't lose touch, which allows you to be, right, a much more powerful teacher and leader. Another thing that's going to happen, or other things that are going to happen, that are really a blessing and teach such wonderful things, is the things you're going to do in your personal relationship. The base shop's is where you're going to build those strongest personal relationships. You grow up together in the business. You take them from, just doing an AMA to SMD, to a strong SMD, to an EMD and a CEO and all this stuff. And you go through that together, and it's magnificent. A name jumps to my mind, John Pham, down in Southern California. And John and I go way back in the business, more than 2 decades. And I watched so much, and we shared so much. And you watch what's happened in my life, and Cindy and I and our children, now grandchildren, and all of that. And it's just, I think about the depth of that relationship, or I think about Sean and Jamie, or I think of it. There's so many people I could mention. Now I throw out Ed Milet, or I think about Swan Wynn, and I remember him walking into our BPM on a Saturday morning, way back, over 30 years ago. And I think about what this means. You get to build amazing relationships, and what an extraordinary thing that is. Living, I put that in quotes, living with your people and your base is the best way to build the loyalty and depth in your friendships. And I mean your loyalty to them as much as I mean their loyalty to you. And that's going to cause your people to believe in you, and more important, and the reason they will is they'll find out they can trust you. That you make the right decisions even under pressure. And you keep leading the way, and you keep showing up, and they watch how you deal with frustration and discouragement. They watch how you deal with setbacks, and you keep on coming. And it's the place where you build the kind of connection in your friendships that are just more special than most people ever experience or realize. This is where you'll have your greatest influence on your people's lives, is when they're in your base. Right there. And see, even with all that you want to do, understand, all you owe your people is a strong personal example and an opportunity. And I'm going to warn you not to take, after having said all this, their marriage isn't your total responsibility, you understand? You might make some suggestions, but man, send them to a counselor if they get in some real trouble, because you're not a marriage counselor. They come to you, I'm hurting, Rich, can I borrow some money? No. Right? Because I'm not going to get that kind of relationship with you. Because you want to destroy relationships, turn into a lending one. Then they can't pay you back, and then they start avoiding you, and then they quit, and they never pay you back, and you're pissed about. Don't go there, because you're not a banker, just like you're not a marriage counselor. And someone has kind of personal issues, and you're not really a psychiatrist either, right? You're in the financial services business. Now, you can give them common sense suggestions about how to work with people and that kind of stuff, and this business will make you more of a psychologist than you probably would think, but at the same time, that's not your career. We have a little bit of all of them. But the banker thing is an absolute. Here, the example, you owe them, right? So I'm making money, saving money, personal recruiting, out there in the field, working hard, keeping a good attitude, and we have a great opportunity when you do that. That's the game. But this is part of the amazing aspect of the base shop in your life. Is that you'll end up with more friends than most human beings have in a lifetime. And that'll happen to you in a year or 2 years, much less when you've been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20. Astounding. Astounding. Now, if you're having trouble in your personal relationships, I put this up for a reason, this picture. Dysfunction, showing a broken chain, link in the chain. The only consistent feature of all your dissatisfying relationships is you. So in other words, that defines dysfunction. You have people that have all kinds of good relationships in their lives, except the one they have with you. So guess what that means? You're the issue. Fix it. Go to work on it. Ask for feedback. Get some help from leadership. And assume personal responsibility. Right? Because how your relationships go is your responsibility. If nothing's working, it's all your fault, just so you know. I've accepted and embraced that a long time ago. I'm looking at this company right now, and I'm looking at things that I would want to change, and in my mind I go, I've got to assume total responsibility for that to change in the company. But I tell you what, it's easier to change things in your base than it is when you're staring out at thousands of SMDs. But there are other good things that come from that, as you're well aware. But you don't change it overnight, and you got to work hard to do it. All right, that's the game. If I'm willing to do it, I challenge you to be willing to do it. Now let's talk about mental toughness and what the base does for that. This is where I learned it. Right? I watched LeBron James and that marvelous team for the Cleveland Cavaliers end up dominate mentally my Golden State Warriors. That's the way it happened. And it was powerful. I watched it the other way around the year before. At the same time, Cleveland showed up healthy. It was a fun series to watch. I love champions. The reason I can sound excited about Cleveland, even though I'm a Golden State fan, is because, frankly, I don't engage a whole lot of emotion with this stuff. I learn from it. I'm entertained by it some. But you know what? You know what I'm all fired up about? Our company, our opportunity, our business, you winning. That's what I'm fired up about. That's who I'm rooting for. That's what gets my energy. That, my family, and the work I do in our church. Right? I don't have a lot left over for a bunch of other guys running up and down a floor or a field making millions of dollars if I'm not. Right? Frankly, that would just piss me off. So if I was one of those guys sitting in the stands, barely able to afford the ticket, watching these guys run around, and I paint my face and I'm wearing a jersey with somebody else's name on it, the heck with that. I want your jersey to have your name on it. I want the team name to be your team. I want you to experience this stuff. And where I learned to be mentally tough was right in the base. Because it's tough to run a base. Because it really is your leadership that makes the difference. You got to continue to do the fundamentals, month in and month out, year in and year out. I watch people that can't hold the fundamentals more than 2-3 months at a time, and they're off running across the field like, you know. We used to have a dog that we used to go hunting with. This sounds better than it was. Labrador Retriever, but we never really trained her right, and she was real enthusiastic. And I remember we went pheasant hunting back years ago. I don't hunt anymore, but back then I'm with my dad and we're tromping across this old rice paddy, and and our dog sees a pheasant off in the distance, and it's running across that field, and it's about 2 miles away, and we see all these pheasants flying everywhere else but toward us, and this dumb dog is chasing every bird in the area out of the country. I think out of the zip code, you know, crazy dog. And it just got so excited it forgot what we were trying to do. I can't tell you how many people I've watched do that in the business. We go, okay, now we got to be here on Tuesday night, right? We got to give these classes. We got to have people in the meeting, and next thing I know, they're out of the state. They're running across anyway, like that dog, you know. And you've got to resist this. You've got to buckle down. This is about discipline. It's about mental toughness. Hey, I like having fun, but I found out ultimately that winning was more fun than messing around was more fun. And you got to get that in your head and be willing to fight every day for this stuff. And you're going to have to. Because you got to keep the edge that makes a difference in winning and losing. Hey, you had a bunch of people show up for the BPM. You're all excited to set a bunch of appointments, but you're not good at setting appointments yet, so a bunch of them don't set appointments. Or they set appointments and they don't keep them. Are you going to cry for a week? Are you going to give up? Are you going to go around like, oh, man, woe's me, sucking your thumb, holding your little blanket to your cheek? Or are you going to go, okay, what do we got to change? Because I remember this stuff. And I remember Cindy having to encourage me, and my leaders having to encourage me. But I learned to become mentally tough. I didn't start mentally tough, but I learned to become mentally tough. Building this team, right? Doing the leadership stuff. Mediocre at best in the beginning, getting a little better over time till I got good at it, and maybe became very good at a few things. But there's an old saying, and one I've quoted many times, there are no pansies in the major leagues. For those of you where English is a second language, a pansy is a little flower that grows almost right on the ground. And it's very fragile, and if you step on it, you smash it. And so when I say pansy, that means you can't be a totally insecure, weak person and get to the major leagues. You've got to get stronger. You've got to become mentally tough. It happens a day at a time, a week at a time, a month at a time. Be as patient as you can with yourself, but know you've got to fight for it, that's the game. Now, because I want to talk about this again, we're going to spend more time about being the example. By running a successful base shop, you take all the excuses away from your people. And man, do you want to do that. Right? Take the excuses away. Hold up your other leaders that are coming up. There'll be a bunch of different kinds of examples, shapes, sizes, genders, backgrounds, creeds and colors, all kinds that win in the business, right? That have all the important stuff in common. And that you see that broad spectrum of people winning, man, does that pull excuses away, right? Because you're showing them firsthand how to win. So here's the deal. Somebody says, well, I got to get the tone of voice right. Well, nobody's recruiting. You say, well, my base is. And you say, well, nobody's selling. And you go, well, wait a minute. My base is, right? Nobody's making money. Wait a minute. I am, all right? I can't run a base shop and work with SMDs too. That's for you other leaders out there. And you go, I do. And so that part of it, back to the Nike saying, just do it, becomes extraordinarily important again. Come on, saddle up here, get ready to ride, and don't be a pansy. Base shop, get in a base shop. That means for almost everyone on this phone call right now, you got to go out and start personal recruiting, and start field training, and start running that stuff as fast as you can. You see, because this is where the action is. Right? There's that little thing they click before they start shooting a scene on TV or in a movie. Right? Director goes, action. It means everybody's starting to do what they're supposed to do. Action. The rubber meets the road in your base shop. Understand it. It's where your leaders are built. It requires an excited, positive attitude. It demands the right kind of activity. That's how it works. When should you close down your base? Probably never. Should probably keep a base forever. Gets easier to do, may not be as big as it once was, because now you're devoting a ton of leadership time and development of people time, and hundreds of SMDs in your organization, and all the ones first generation. But certainly you can't even think about it until you have 7, 10 lifetime SMDs, right? A lifetime or leaders earning more than $100,000 a year for at least 5 consecutive years. You got a bunch of strong first-generation leaders making good six-figure incomes, multiple six-figure incomes, and have done it for several years in a row, at least 5. Those people aren't going anywhere. You'd be better off having 20 of them. 30's even more fun. 40's better than that. But the reality is, you got to get that going in your first generation, right? And then you're going to have some seconds to do it, some thirds, some fourths, etc. Right? Here's the deal. When you think you can no longer handle a base shop, in other words, you just swamped mentally, you got all this going on, and you're out field training some guy, and you go, well, I'm tired. And you go, I don't got time for this. I got SMDs. I'm making $500,000, $700,000, whatever it is, right? When you think you can no longer handle a base shop and everything else you're supposed to do, wait at least 5 more years. Serious, wait at least 5 more years. And make sure it's all real. All right, now here's a good question to ask, and then for me to answer. How wide should you be? Well, in your base, and let me give you a definition, I'm going to talk about how wide you should be in legs. Now, leg produces a minimum 2 to 3 recruits, 5 to 7 sales a month. So you get that defined. It could be an associate doing that. It could be a senior associate. It could be an MD. But the minimum is 2 to 3 recruits and 5 to 7 sales a month. So that's a leg. You got licensed people in it. You got people know how to bring people to a meeting and follow them up a little bit, get them started, do some field training, and close some sales. All right? Now, so how wide you should be. I'll define it kind of by these adjectives relating to your income or the living that you're making. To make a decent living, you got to have 10 legs in your base. Right? You're going to be 6 figures. Good things are going to happen. And by the way, you're making 6 figures because you're still field training, right? You're still adding some recruits, right? And good things are happening. But to make a good living, you have 15 legs in your base. Really good living. To have a great living, you got to have 20 legs. That means you got 20 people direct to you doing 2 to 3 recruits, at least 5 to 7 sales a month, right? And you're working with them to grow that. And to make a dream living, you have 30 legs. I peaked in the base shop business with 43 legs direct to me. And of course, in this day and age, with what we earn with our products and our income, that would definitely have been a dream living. It was a dream living to me back then, selling term insurance. I have actually worked the numbers, but it's not important we discuss that right now, of what it would have been in this season with the opportunity we have built for you to enjoy. But that's the kind of thinking you ought to be having, right? 10, 15, 20, 30, decent, good, great dream, right, for what's going on in your base. You still with me? Yeah? Okay, well, let's ask that question and answer it a different way. How wide should you be in first-generation SMDs? I think you're going to feel pretty financially independent with a strong base and 7 to 10 lifetimers in your first generation. You're going to feel like a superstar if you have 15 to 20 lifetimers in your super base. And you're going to feel like an industry giant with 25 to 30 lifetimers in your first generation, your super base. Stunning stuff. That's how wide you should be thinking. I want 7 to 10 lifetimers. You see how you can't just surge to this? You can't just explode in a couple of months of this? You're building lifetimers. You're building legs in your base. Not just getting an AMA. Right? You're building a long-term, powerful, really solid, foundationally strong, profitable, and maybe super profitable business. I had an accountant, a CPA, once accused me, kind of resentfully I might add, of owning a money machine after we had been in the business only 3 years. He couldn't believe how we had started as young, and I was only 31 at that point when he said it, and he'd been working for 25, 30 years building his accountancy firm in Silicon Valley and had a pretty good thing going on with 2 other partners, and I was outing all of them put together in my 4th year in the business. He thought we owned a money machine. It's because we did this. We built the base. We took it wide. We built the legs. And we started building strong first generations. And we kept after it. and we kept after it. I looked at things in the terms of 5 and 10-year increments, not just the next promotion. Folks, we're trying to win here. Like I've said many times, we're trying to change our family's destiny here. Not just become an EMD or crack some good income one month. This is all about being for real, long term. Think that way and assume responsibility for this. And I'll remind you, as I'm closing up here, we reward the right kind of person. Right? You see that saying there, winners are not those who never fail, but those who never quit. Because then your stumblings, your mistakes, your struggles, is not failure. It's just an education. It's a classroom. You know, you learn a lot by striking out. You know, because you're going to have to strike out watching some major league pitching. Caught a little bit of an all-star game. I saw a critical moment. I think it was the 8th inning, and bases were loaded, and the rookie was at the plate for the National League. And he was facing a strong closer, and that guy painted the corner and struck him out standing there. And I thought he just learned something. That, you know, when it's 2-0 and it's coming anywhere, when it's 2 outs and you're the guy at the plate and the bases are loaded and everything's on the line, you don't sit there with your bat on your shoulder. You at least got to be going out swinging, not dumbfounded. He was hoping to get walked, and what he got was struck out. So there it is. Tangent, sorry about that. When I say the right kind of person, these are the 7 common characteristics. I've done a whole webinar on this, so I'm just going to list them. Here they are. Here's what our winners are. Universally, they're good people. They have an unbelievable desire to win. They have a strong faith in our system. They have success, and they're money motivated the right way. But they're also savings motivated. They have a great work ethic. They have a decent sense of humor, because stuff's too tough without laughing over it sometimes. And they have a consistent positive attitude. Those are the 7 common characteristics of our winners. Good person, unbelievable desire to win, faith in our system, success and money motivated, great work ethic, not a good one, great one, decent sense of humor, and a consistent positive attitude. And they never quit. That's the game. All right. We're done with this one. And let me tell you about the next webinar. I am going to do a webinar Wednesday, August 10th of 2016 at 9 a.m. Pacific about taking action, how to get the rubber to the road, how to make this thing happen. Action, action, action. I'm going to talk about the mental approach to taking action. Talk about the physical approach to taking action. I'm talking about the communication you got to do with your team to take action. And it's going to be very useful, very purposeful, because it's all about how to get to the rubber of the road. I'm going to talk to you as if you were standing or sitting in front of me and in my base shop. And everything I had was riding on it. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing to take action, and what you got to do to take action, get the rubber to the road. That's the game. So that's what we're going to do August 10th. I look forward to spending time with you then. Get after it, build your teams, personally recruit, field train. If you're coasting a little, stop coasting, get after it. The world's in front of us, and it's scary. Scary. You better put yourself and your family in a stronger position. Because right now, almost all of you on this call are way too vulnerable. Way too vulnerable to how the economy's going. Way too vulnerable because you're in debt. Way too vulnerable because you don't have enough in reserve. And you need to do something about it. So I want you taking action before we do the webinar and taking action. That's for dang sure. That's why I just did the one on the base shop. Quit leaving yourself so vulnerable. We're not meant to be victims. We're meant to be victors. We were born to be victors. And we built this company for you to win with. And I'm proud of you. Proud of you on this call. Thanks for being a part of it. Man, we had over we have 1,228 locations listening to this right now. So thank you for that. And I'll be with you again August 10th. Bye.